Oh boy, it's time to review X-Men #1. And you're probably not going to like what I have to say about it. Three, two, one. What's going on, everyone? You're watching Ash on Comics. My name is Ash. Here is today's comic, X-Men #1. And I got some little goodies to go along with it. Joining me, I used to say as always, but lately it hasn't been always, so I can't say that. But joining me as often as he can is my co-host, Stan the Man. He should really need no introduction. Stan, you got something on your head here. What's going on? Oh, man. We got to get that looked at. That's not looking good, buddy. You should see a doctor. And then Forky. Forky is our resident expert on all things trash. He is the mascot of the channel. He recently got promoted to be assistant to Stan the Man. And he's a celebrity. He's a movie star. So, what more can you ask? Thanks, Forky, for joining us. Thank you, people who are on the other side of the YouTuber, you on there, for watching this. I'm about to talk about X-Men #1. But before I do, I'm about to have lunch. Stan was nice enough to swing by Sombrero, one of the best Mexican shops here in San Diego. San Diego style Mexican food is how they bill themselves. And damn, this is my birthday treat. Now actually Sombrero was nice enough to give me a birthday treat. I got a free meal for my birthday. My birthday was September 26th. It's been like 3 weeks now. But they get a little thing. I'm not going to go into detail. Suffice to say, I got a free meal. How awesome is that? Comic book industry doesn't give me free comics on my birthday. So this is a burrito. You may notice knife and fork. Why? Because this is the Jumbo Deluxe, as they call it, or special burrito. Oh, and that's all its glory. It's big. It's big. It's bigger than Stan. Stan, you can't eat that. It's too big. This is delicious. It's a beef and beans, and it's got rice, and it's got I think it has lettuce. I don't know if it has tomato, but it's like slow roasted, pulled, shredded beef. It's so delicious, and then it's smothered in their enchilada sauce, which is my favorite enchilada sauce that there ever was. So I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna eat this off camera. I'm not gonna make you watch. Then we're going to talk about X-Men. I need to get something in my stomach because I got a lot to talk about. But I just wanted to point out these things here, these little goodies. My store was really nice enough. I got some extra flowers. So now I'm going to plant some flowers, some cocoa seeds, because I didn't want to open up these other ones. I wanted to keep them as a keepsake. And now and then, I don't know if your store did this. If they didn't, you need to talk to them. Giving away trading cards. Where's the camera? Look at that, little decoders on the back. Normally I'm not into this stuff, but I forgot to do this on my pull list. After I did my Ash Wednesdays video, I was done filming and I looked over and I saw these sitting on the side and I was like, man, I totally forgot to do these. Anyways, you don't care. You care about this. That's what you came here for. So it's only going to take a few seconds and we're going to get on to business, but I'll see you in a sec. Thank you for indulging me on that burrito. Oh, it's a fantastic burrito. What a great lunch. And now I have this comic in front of me and I want to talk about it. But before I do, I need to get some things kind of off my chest and just kind of get some disclaimers. Number one, I'm a big Marvel fanboy from the past. And X-Men is my bag. It's my #1 thing. Love X-Men to death. I collected X-Men from the mid-'80s and the mid-'90s. I got in around issue 210, immediately got the back issues from 199 up, and just started deep diving into the X-Men world. That was my bag. And to this day, there has never been a comic book that's quite engrossed me like the X-Men. Chris Claremont's writing, the characters, their adventures. It's everything to me in comics. When they started going downhill, when Chris Claremont left, it took a couple years, but after he left, X-Men just had a slow decline, and it just stopped being the magic that it was. And when I lost that magic, I started losing my interest, because comics is an expensive hobby. If you're buying in, I just had other things going on in my life, yada, yada, yada. Fast forward, I had about a 20-year hiatus out of comics. Now, I kept my ear to the hobby. I did read comics from time to time using cool services like Marvel Unlimited. Of course, watch all the movies, and I talked to people who have comics, and so it wasn't so far like just completely, utterly removed, but I kept my ear close enough to where I could sort of peer in through the window and know, yeah, I don't need to come back to this. Nothing ever allured me to come back. Now, in 2018, I came back into comics, and I'm not going to go on the story of why. That I've said in other videos. I'll probably say it again in the future, but this video is probably already going to go way too long. When I came back into comics, Marvel was a complete clown circus. Like, it is, and I'm mixing up my metaphors there. But I just was like, I can't buy any Marvel. It's totally, utterly just awful. And X-Men in particular. But I got convinced to try DC. And DC was doing some great things. And they still have the majority of the talent. Got a dog. Always got to be in the video. He's all shaved right now. He just had surgery. He's always got to be in the video. So, he's doing fine, by the way. Now I'm distracted. My train of thought's just all lost. So, X-Men was near and dear to me. And if I'm not going to read terrible X-Men, it's a lot of like the way I would have give an analogy to Star Wars, right? There's a lot of fans out there who don't like what Disney's doing with Star Wars, but they love the original Star Wars, and they just can't stand to see this Disney version. It just completely clashes. That's kind of how I am with X-Men. I was just like, I can't stand seeing the X-Men like this. That's not my X-Men. Now, I don't mean any disrespect to anyone's opinions, and I don't think my opinions are, ultimate. My opinion is my own. I get that. And sometimes I'm wrong, but they're based on my life experience. And this channel, it's called Ash on Comics because it's just about me being on comics. I'm not some sort of authority figure on comics. I'm just here to be like you guys. And I'm talking like I would talk to you at the comic book shop on a Wednesday when you're asking me, hey Ash, what comics you picking up? What are you thinking about that new X-Men? This is what it would be like. I'd be talking to you just like this. Now, when I first started my channel, one of the critiques that I got was honestly, some people were telling me, Ash, man, you're trying too hard not to offend anyone, and you're trying to make sure that you appeal to everyone, and it just doesn't work. Like you got to take a stance, good or bad, and some people are going to hate that stance, but other people are going to like that stance. And that's what people are coming for, right? You want to expect, if you just try to appeal to everybody, you're not really going to appeal to anybody. And that was something I really believe in. You can please some of the people all the time, but you can't please all the people. Anyway, that's the old saying. And that hit home. So I really just was like, I changed gears in my channel, and I just started becoming I didn't become very opinionated, but I just started not caring about if someone disagreed with my opinion so much. I don't want to offend anyone, right? I've been criticized by people telling me, we can't like a comic if you dislike it, or vice versa. If you like a comic, God forbid, anyone else dislike it. And that's a misread on me. If anyone's ever listened to my channel, you felt that way. I'm just a very opinionated person, and I just want to be convinced. If my opinion's wrong, if I have a different take than you and you think I'm wrong, I want to be convinced. So I argue I put a hard argument on there. I don't just go, oh, shrug, okay, I guess you're right. That doesn't sway me. I think if I did that, or if other people do that, I think it's just avoiding confrontation, and you avoided an argument, but no side was swayed. Anyways, what I'm trying to say is I mean things harmless. Now I'm going to talk about this book, and I'm probably going to be kind of negative on it. And I wanted to tell you firsthand, when Jonathan Hickman launched his X-Men book to begin with, I was a big naysayer because Marvel was crapping the bed. And I was like, this is going to be the same thing. Mark my words. And I've told the story in the House of X Powers of X videos of how I got into that series. But needless to say, I did get into the series. And it was fantastic. I will say this, going out on a limb, it is one of the greatest X-Men stories I have ever read. Hickman told a fantastic story. I wasn't easily won over. It took 3 issues before I was finally like, okay. But I did. I think a lot of people are in the same boat. I think a lot of people read that book and were like, holy bejesus, what am I reading? This is amazing. And now it's reminding me of kind of like when George Lucas did his Star Wars prequels. And when that first movie, Phantom Menace, came out, everyone was like, it's amazing, it's great, because it was a new Star Wars. And it took a couple of weeks before people started going, wait a second, am I being true to myself? People to this day will deny that, oh no, I hated it all along, or this or that. And I'm like, I call BS. I was there. I saw Phantom Menace 8 times. I saw Phantom Menace 4 times on the first day. I am a massive Star Wars junkie. I didn't see a single person, not a single anywhere. Now, the internet wasn't like it is. I'm sure the internet outrage would prevail, but that's not my point story. My point is you can have, when you want to like something bad enough, you will see it through rose-colored glasses, and you will not be as critical about the book. Now, there's some people who I greatly respect their opinions and their views and their perspectives that have a differing opinion than me. And you've probably already watched their channels. And I just want to caveat now, I don't mean any disrespect or to say that that's wrong, or my take is simply a different take. And hopefully we all appreciate diversity of thought, and that you want to hear what I have to say. And let's just get into the book, I guess, because I'm just going to go on forever. And Eric Breen, yes, this is the part where you make a snappy remark in the comments. Okay. This is take 5. To you, this is just a long video and something for Eric Breen to make fun of. But for me, this has been an all-day experience. This has been really frustrating. So I apologize if it doesn't come out right at a time, if it feels low energy, when you try to bring your enthusiasm or your emotion on the 2nd, the 3rd, the 4th, and now the 5th take, it just wasn't recording correctly. So we're going to try it a 5th and final time. Here we go. The cover. What's up with the Scott Summers family? I thought this was the X-Men, not the Scott Summers bunch. It's just, everyone on here is a Summers, except for Wolverine, who apparently is adopted into the family, I guess. I don't understand. Let's get on with the show. Oh, by the way, this is Legacy 645. So does that mean in 5 issues they're going to have a double-sized $8 book when they celebrate their 650th issue? Stupid Marvel. I'm calling it now. Then, open your eyes. I can't, sir. I won't. I'm scared of what'll happen. I understand. You're afraid that you're going to hurt someone. But choosing to keep your eyes closed because you're scared, that's what they do. And you don't have to go through life blind because you are not like them. How do you know? Because I have no small measure of experience in those who are extraordinary. Now, open your eyes. They work. The glasses work. I can see. Better than most, my boy. And oh, the things I will show you. Okay. Now, I'm of mixed feelings on this. This opens up pretty nice. I like the symbology or symbolism of the father figure, Charles Xavier, to the son, the open your eyes, like a child being born. I like that. But it throws me off back here. You don't have to go through life blind because you are not like them. Who's them? Is them humans? And if so, why is Charles talking with contempt? Like, it just feels like them, it's driving me nuts. We live in the society today, where there's seemingly more racial tension than my entire lifetime. And I've lived through over 4 decades. And I've never seen as much racial divide and tension as I have today. And it used to be, I grew up with the XMen, and the XMen were this book of hope and about equality, and it didn't matter if people were different. We're all the same. We're all just as valuable. No one's better than anyone else. And now it's them. It's so tribal, so so identitarian, so collectivist. And I know Hickman's a good writer. I want to trust the author. I want to be like, okay, there's a plan. Just ignore it. But the past decade of comics have pounded into my head that they're just tools for this sort of ideology, and it I can't help. It just sticks out in my head. I'm sorry. And like I said, this is a show about me expressing my feelings and talking about how these books affect me and my takeaways. And I'm being honest with you. Speaking of honest, I am not a fan of Leinil Yu's art. It's not pretty to look at, and as I'll show later, he's not very skilled as a visual storyteller. I thought this panel was pretty terrible. I hate this negative space. It's just white background. It felt really sloppy. Charles looks ugly. Scott looks like a little girl. Well, not a little girl. Looks like a woman. And then look at this. When he does draw some background, it just... What is this? This is Marvel Comics. Marvel Comics, XMen, the flagship. The book that had the likes of Alan Davis, John Byrne, Dave Cockrum, Mark Silvestri, Jim Lee. I mean, all the big names practically drew X-Men. It didn't have bad names. I'm sorry. A Brave New World. Here we see our X-Men lineup. It's about a little over 50% Summers clan. Apparently that's how X-Men are today. Just nothing but descendants of Corsair down here. Who's busy popping out Summers family. Corsair, who's not a mutant, but you wouldn't know that by reading this book, which apparently lines him up as the X-Men. Never explains that he's not an X-Men. Also, look at, this is Prestige. This is Rachel Summers. She used to be my favorite. One of my favorite X-Men. Probably my favorite female X-Men. And it's an abomination what they've done to her. She's gone from like one of my favorites to being a character I just can't stand. I hope she dies. I hate this new Prestige name. I don't know if she's Rachel Gray. Did they do that because can't have the Summers name because Summers is bad, but Summers isn't bad anymore. What's going on? I don't know. Here's the credits in case you care. And then we cut right to the action now. They thought they could hide from us, but they were wrong. We've reached the heart of the last Orcish stronghold on Earth. And here we see Storm getting down. And, oh my God, look at that booty. Good Lord. Baby's got back. Leinil Yu has got something about this woman. Holy cow, what a booty. So be careful, Cyclops. If you look close enough, you can see the desperation in their eyes. Suicide bombs and serving the greater good are always the last refuge of a conquered people. And again, it's this sort of like down speak, this sort of contemptuous, talk about humanity. And, it wasn't just but a couple months ago. Wasn't the X-Men, weren't they doing suicide bombs? So, here's something to note going forward. Look at Storm. This is her face. Watch as it changes. Here's probably the best drawing of her. It's it's funny. It's how she looks different almost at every panel. So we get this panel here. Storm's looking kind of in a weird, awkward pose. Something's kind of happening. You can't really make it out. You can't understand the motion of the character. She's just weird. There's some sparks on the wall. I guess that's supposed to be gunfire. There's a blast hitting this robot thing in the back. It's really kind of confusing. You don't have any context until you get to the next panel, where after Storm said to be careful, he says, "I'm always careful, Storm. It's part of my charm." And it's a pretty baller thing for Scott Summers to say, but I don't know, it just kind of feels wasted. "Thank you. Not a problem. Surprised the giant purple robot snuck up on you. It's because I'm tired. But I don't know what I'm more tired of. These engines of death, or the men who insist on making them." Oh, those men. By men, I know she means humans. I'm not thinking that Storm's trying to be feminist, but again, it's that contemptuous. It's the same way any racial supremacist group talks about the race that they're most against. This is the same way the KKK would talk about black people. And just because we like the X-Men and they're on our side, doesn't mean that we should say, "Oh, well, it's okay when they do it." It's just as distasteful no matter who's doing it, right? It's wrong because it's wrong. Anyways. For years we've endured small wins. We called incremental change progress, when what we really needed was a giant leap forward. Now, here I want to get into the art, what I was talking before about the sequential art. So we have this panel, we get a close-up of Storm's face, and we cut over here, and this is kind of a hard cut. Now, when you think of sequential storytelling, the way I like to talk about it is very much like cinematography. Think about if you're watching a movie. In between each panel, you should be able to sort of visualize in your head the motion or the camera movement that goes between one panel to the next. Subconsciously, as you get practiced at this, subconsciously your mind will just do it automatically without you having to think about it, and the books will come alive. But if you're a bad artist and you don't really understand sequential art, it makes it really difficult for a user to do that. I think it makes it even more pronounced for readers who are adept at seeing books that way that I just described. So for here, we see the top panel, and we see Scott and Aurora peering out these doorways. They see some troops lined up, ready to go. The next panel carries over pretty well. It's pretty much the same angle, although we see Scott darting out to the side and blasting his eye beams. And then the next panel, the angle's all weird. I don't understand where it is. We assume that it's away from his face, like it's the next scene going so forward, he's looking. But when you look at the panel, we see he's actually looking the other way, it seems. And are we looking behind him? So it's confusing. He's like looking and then shooting some angled beam that bounces and then hits. Okay, and so now look at the far wall where, if you look at the end of the page, that little lit up gray area, that far wall, that's where the camera's pointing at. On this next panel, it's actually basically from that wall looking the complete opposite direction. The camera just completely flips the other way. Your mind has a hard time making flip-flops like that. This is something you rarely will see happen in movies. And then the very next frame you just see a bunch of guys getting zapped by lightning bolts. Now, if you are an X-Men reader, it's easy for your mind to fill in the blanks and go, oh, that's Storm zotting them with her electricity, right? But stop for a second and imagine that you've never read an X-Men comic and you don't know who the X-Men are. You just see our two heroes are peering around the side of the door, and then the next thing, people getting zotted. There's no information of what's happening here. Then you see Aurora just kind of making some mean face, like she's or something, and she's kind of glowing blue, but is she getting shocked? I don't know. Again, I know she's not because I know she's doing the lightning, but that's only because I have previous knowledge outside of this book. If I had never read anything before, I'd be like, wait, is she getting attacked too? This is not good storytelling. Then, also, look at her face. She doesn't look the same. It's a big honking nose. And then we cut over to this where they're running. And should be a dynamic shot, but it looks like they're just kind of jogging, like very stilted. We come to this next scene, and again, the camera flips 180 degrees, so it's over their shoulder, and it's pointing at a group of soldiers who are terribly drawn. Look at this. Look at this art. What is this? The inking looks like someone just dotted it, like they were doing a tattoo, rather than drawing lines. I hate this inking. So we're looking over Scott's head, right? So we're looking the same direction he is. Then again, the camera flips 180 degrees again. So now it's looking at his face. The camera is constantly flipping forward, then backwards, then forward, then backwards, right? The next frame after this is good. It basically is a pull out from where his face is. It zooms out away from him, and you can see the bigger picture. He's looking over the shoulders of these guards who are facing the same direction he is, so they don't see him. Then the next camera we're looking straight at the guard's face. So we're looking out a doorway, which is what Scott's looking out, right? So your mind immediately thinks, oh, I'm looking out this doorway that Scott's looking out. But why are they facing? Did they just all of a sudden turn around and be like, oh, surprise? Because that's my first instinct is like, oh, they realized we're here and they all spun around. But nope, it's actually Magneto. And again, the camera flips 180 degrees, so we're looking backwards at, Magneto. The next frame is good. It zooms up to his face. And I'm not going to go too much. I think I illustrated my point. This was driving me bananas when I was reading this. The sequential art on this book is terrible. Leinil needs an editor that knows art and can instruct him. This should not be Marvel Comics. I guess in 2019 it's passable. He's better than the average Marvel artist these days, but that's the result of the terrible talent pool. Not to say anything about his talent. So Magneto makes some villainous remark here, and Polaris is right by his side, feeling more like an evil henchman than anything. And he makes his grand entrance. He tells Scott to step aside because Scott can't pierce through vibranium. Of course, Magneto has no problem with anything metal. And he busts through. Then we get to this new villain, Dr. Mars, who's working on something. And the troops are like, there's an 80%, overlap, meaning, they got 80% of the data is good. It's no matter what happens, 80% of their data is going to be saved. Should they evacuate? But Mars is like, no, we're going to, die defending this. We're not giving up to the mutants. And he's got this super serum that essentially is a predecessor to what we probably expect is going to be the post-humans. The serum turns them into super gorilla monster things that fight the X-Men, to which Magneto's like, I'll take care of this. You guys keep going to your mission. And their mission is to rescue these other mutants that have been captured. Aurora grows a flower so they can escape. And they get the mutants, but there's one special tube that's holding a special person, and they're like, what's special about this person? They break it open, and they see this girl who looks really cool design. It's kind of striking. And this is one of the most interesting parts of this book. She's kind of speechless at first, and then she says, I am not here. You do not see me. So she's trying to use some sort of powers, but they apparently don't work, except they make Aurora look different. So, she says, what are you talking about? I'm looking right at you. And Polaris, who's coincidentally got a tricorder handy, she says, human, but the tachyon bleed suggests massive atemporal development. So technically post-human. I'm weak, so weak. You're from the vault, aren't you? I emerged before I was fully cooked, a child born out of time. But I had to, don't you see? There are wild gods loose in the world. And the only gods on this planet stand here before you, child. Scott responds, that's faster than expected. So he's referring to the post-humanism. This is something that the House of X and Powers of X explored, that in the future, humans will make an evolutionary leap past what mutants are through controlled genetics and so forth. It's not true evolution, but it accomplishes sort of the similar thing, but instead of where evolution is an organic reaction to the environment, this is controlled genetic modifications that can be tailored and designed for specific purposes, which beats out, natural evolution. The House and Powers of X explain it way better than I do, but it's all really cool. But they probably expected that to be years down the road, and here they're seeing evidence for it already. So she gets away, and then they rescue the children. Oh, such a good X-Men trope, rescuing all the poor mutant children. And you know what's funny? It's like, for years, the X-Men, all of them look pretty normal, except Nightcrawler was the one who looked kind of weirdo. And then Beast looked kind of weird, but that was actually not because of his mutation. That was Beast trying to cure his mutation, and he actually made it worse, and that's why he turned all blue. And Nightcrawler was the weirdo-looking one. But most mutants in the X-Men all looked like normal people. But what's funny is that the post-Chris Claremont era of X-Men, all these writers, they always make mutants look like mutants. Like, they're all bizarro. Look at this girl's got octopus legs. You're just like, they look like freaks. And I think it's kind of gone overboard. I'm a little tired of that. So we go back to Krakoa. And this part of the story reminds me a lot of Matrix Reloaded. I think it was Reloaded, or maybe it was Revolutions. One of the Matrix sequels, where the Nebuchadnezzar arrives home with Morpheus and his crew, and then Neo. And Morpheus, of course, is this great hero that he's been fighting for the humans against the machines. And, the last city of Zion kind of reminds me of Krakoa here. It's just, there's a lot of parallels. And here again, Aurora looks totally different. She looks Asian now. It's like, we can't decide what Aurora looks like. Oh, this is funny. So they arrive. Oh, wait, now she's not eating. Like, what the heck is going on with her face? And here's Magneto. Kind of reminds me of that Morpheus scene. But also a little bit of Neo, too, how they kind of almost worship him. Everyone crowds around him. This little kid is like, wants to fight with him, and Magneto tells him, I've spent my life fighting, so you'll never have to. And he's like, but what if the humans try and take us? Well, that's only going to happen, kid, because the propaganda mutants have made you fear, the fake news. Oh, sorry. I can't help myself. And Magneto says, you won't have to, for I am Magneto. Let man run from me. This is actually a cool sequence of panels. I like the angles of the shots. Magneto looks very regal and powerful. The expression on that kid's face looks, heartfelt. It stirs emotion. That's really good. Then they chant, Magneto, Magneto. They make comments about how Magneto's looking young again. And then what's up with Scott's face here? What's going on? Oh, it's just so weird. And so that Scott says he's going home and he's going to have dinner with the family, and he invites Lorna, but Lorna's kind of awkward. She's not sure. And she's not ready to go, whatever. And Scott says he was very close to surrendering to the world and all this stuff, but I held on. And then says, and look, I have you and your father and my family, my boy. I found that, and it says, and we are home. And I thought that was a weird thing for Scott to say. I would expect him to say, and look, I have you, my friends like you, and I also have Jean, my wife, I have my father, Corsairs here, my brothers. He doesn't mention them. He mentions, I have you and your father, and my family and my boy. The way it's worded comes across very much like these two are an item. And it very well could be. Scott gets around. And he's shown that the modern Scott Summers is not loyal. And so I don't know what to expect. It's not really clear. Maybe I'm reading into things. But he continues and says, because I believed in a thing and now it's real. Lorna responds, Scott, yeah? She stares at him. Do you really believe that? Every single word. I thought that was interesting. She's questioning what he's saying. That's a cue to the audience that we should be questioning what he's saying. Unless Hickman's just writing slop fluff, which doesn't seem like his way. The reason you would put this, remember, in the story, in a writing, everything you have that you write should be there for a reason. If it's not, it's just fluff. And sometimes fluff can be worse than that. It can be misleading and cause people to read into things. No one should be reading into something unless you're putting in deliberate red herrings. That's a different case. But in the case of reading, if someone's reading into something and it's not a red herring, it's because you wrote it wrong. Most of the time, unless someone just has terrible reading comprehension. But I shouldn't be drawing this. If this doesn't have a point, why is it here? I don't know. So we get back to the Orcus Forge, and there's a new villain introduced. His name is Devo. Some people have been pronouncing it Devo. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but I've chosen Devo because he's got these weird funky glasses that remind me, there's this postmodern rock band, a mod rock band from like the early 80s called Devo. You may or may not have heard of them. I think some of the old timers in my audience might know. They're famous for the song "We Are Not Men, We Are Devo." You can look that up on Google. There were a bunch of weirdos. They were kind of cool in their time though, but like just weird. And the whole "We Are Not Men, We Are Devo," the stuff, this post-humanism, it just seems like a subtle thing that I could imagine Hickman kind of referencing. And I don't know if it is or not, but I'm going to choose to go with that route. Now, this guy is sort of the evil, kind of Snoke ruler, kind of, if you will, that whole, this is the new order, and they got the resistance, and or not the resistance, but they're the new order, and it's got the propaganda, and he's like, look at what they've done, and he's rallying the, of course, his people to, to his cause, and to keep that hate going. And they have this ceremony thing, and they honor their dead, and of course that instills zealotry into the cause of against the evil mutants, because they're evil. They kill humans, right? I mean, that's always how it is in war. The enemy is always the evil guy, and you're the good guy in war. So from their perspective, they talk about the forge here and how it was built and why, and they make a point that this Devo guy is sort of the kingpin of it all, and that they lost him, things would be bad. It'd be kind of like killing Hitler in the early days of Nazi Germany. It just, things would probably have gone a different route. But meanwhile, we go back to the summer house, and we see Corsair addressing his son, and this comes off kind of awkward to me. Oh, hey, Dad. Jean asked me to find you. And Scott's always had a weird relationship with his father. They've been estranged Corsair was never really a father to him, which is what allowed Xavier to be the father figure. But here we see it's like, oh, hey, everything's just normal. All the dysfunctionality of the X-Men, gone. Completely gone. And it's actually been like swung the other direction. It's what's kind of weird. But Scott says tells his dad we can grow Krakoan habitats anywhere. So he said, well, why settle? And he just built a habitat on the moon because he could. Which is kind of cool. Like, I'm like, oh, that's neat. You got a habitat on the moon. But then I keep hearing in my back of my head all the people who see this book differently than I do. And some people have commented and tell me, I don't understand. Of course, because I'm a white guy, I can't understand anything. I don't know what it's like to be marginalized. And, of course, that's marginalizing me to say that, but whatever. I don't know what it's like to be marginalized, so I can't relate to what the X-Men are going through. And, I hear it's like at some point you just got to stop being oppressed and you got to fight back, and it's a matter of survival. But, at some point you got to realize that you're not oppressed anymore. At some point you got to realize that you got everything you want. At some point you got to realize that, you live in a literal utopia, that you can make gateways that travel the universe. You can go anywhere in the universe you want through a gateway in an instant. You can build habitats on the moon. You don't have to worry about a mortgage payment. Don't seem to apparently have to worry about a job. Everything is provided for you. Everyone lives a lush life. I have not seen anything bad happen to these people, but yet they are so victimized that they need to wage war against humanity. It's not the same. I'm having a hard time buying into this. Next, we cut over to one of my favorite parts of the book. This is a really good moment with Wolverine and Vulcan. I'm not a fan of Vulcan. He's just kind of not my X-Men characters, but Wolverine is, and Hickman has been doing him justice. I really love how Hickman's been writing Wolverine. I feel like Wolverine's back, which is kind of weird because I feel like every other X-Men is alien to me, but Wolverine is so on point. So that's kind of screwing with my head. And Vulcan says, inside this device, an inferno burns. That fire matches the one inside of me. Do you see? I was born for such things, and I will not stop until the all-consuming flames have... Yeah, you're not listening. I want my steak rare. You put the meat on the fire and expect what? The fire not to be fire? I'm gonna fight you. Wolverine just kind of fed up. Peace, warrior. Because you are valiant and have earned my respect, I will give you your steak rare. Thank you. Medium rare. You son of a... He just throws his beer at him. And I just thought that was such a good human moment, right? Because lest we forget, mutants actually are humans. I know that we say that they're not in the comic books. There's a distinction. But they're Homo sapien superior. They are human evolved. They are still human. They are not a completely new race. They are not, Klingons. They aren't, little green men. They are humans. They have powers. They have some different traits that humanity has, but they didn't just completely have a utterly different physiology, completely different psyche, what have you. They still are like you and I. When it comes, for the most part, I'm sure that there's going to be the exceptions. Obviously, Krakoa probably thinks differently. Then we cut over to this awkward scene. And you got this guy. Now imagine you've never read a comic, you don't know who this guy is. You think, oh, he's an X-Men. Who's this guy? Does it have a thermal scope? Mine has a thermal scope. A holographic thermal scope? Of course. To be clear, that's insufficient armor when facing a Strontian Alpha, but yes, always. Here, however, is the real shimmer in the celestial eye. It has antimatter rounds. Oh my God, I have to have it. Mom, Is it cool if I trade guns with Raza? Set the table first, dear. Oh, look, it's June Cleaver dressed up as Marvel Girl. When did Jean Grey become June Cleaver? Mom. Oh, this made me cringe. And then we got these two panels again with Chad. And look at the back. Look, are they floating in space? It's one thing to not draw backgrounds, but you don't draw the floor now? Come on. So we get this weird family meal time. And again, if you didn't read the comics, you don't know what's going on. You don't even know who half these people are. You just, okay, there's Vulcan and there's Prestige, but then who are these other people? This is very confusing. I'm having a hard time, and I read X-Men for many, many years. Now, granted, it was a long time ago. If you didn't know who the Starjammers were, you'd just be like, what's going on? Who are all these people? They're just random mutants? And then we get to, my character Rachel, who I used to love, and I don't recognize her anymore. And wannabe Yoda girls talking to her. All your clothes, spikes on them, have they? Or a special occasion is this? Yes. Look at, she's just this wooden robot. She's like a Stepford wife now? What's going on? And where's, I don't even want to go any further. I'm just so frustrated. And then here's Jean Grey doing her mannequin pose. And they talk about giving their dad a present, in which they give him a flower. And it's kind of awkward at first. He's like, oh, flower, yay. But then Scott explains, it's a Krakoan gate, Dad. Linked to the one we have here in our house. All you need to do is plant it in the Starjammers Arbitorium, and no matter where you are in the universe, you'll always be just a short walk away. Well then, I love it. It was kind of cringy. And then there's this moment with Vulcan. It's good to see you, Dad. Yes, Father, your visit warms my heart, which already aflame is like pouring heat upon heat. It's the fire of 1,000 suns. Okay, Gabe, he gets it. I'm only like this because I grew up without a strong male role model. It's all right. It's been a good day, the first of many. Let's eat. Holy Bruce Campbell, what's going on with his chin? Oh, man. And then we get the summer house. Now, this part I really liked. This is something they used to do way back in the old days. And I would love to see this come back, where they draw diagrams and so forth of like the headquarters, the bases that the characters work out of. So this is something as a kid, as a little boy, man, I loved this stuff. I used to read, Marvel used to make these things called like the Guide to the Marvel Universe or Handbook Marvel Universe. They were like comic format books, but they weren't actually comics. You'd like flip open, and each page would have like a character in the Marvel Universe, and then like a one-page biography explaining like who they were, where they came from, their origins, all this stuff. And each book would have like 30 different characters in it with a cool picture of them and who they were. And I just dived into that lore of learning who all these characters were. I love those. I really miss those books. There was another one called Who's Who. I don't know if that was the DC one, but one of them had it. Those were really cool. And this sort of stuff I like too, just seeing the floor plans so I can better envision how things are. This is something I loved as a kid. Now here's the actual floor plan of the house. The center area here, number 9, is the living area. Number 7 is the kitchen. 8 is the dining area. That's what we saw they were eating. And these other circles are the rooms. Now, here's the controversy that's been setting in. Notice all these rooms are circles and they're divided walls. But these 3 rooms are connected with open, not even doorways, just like open connections. Oh, I wonder who's here. Could it be like Scott and Jean and their son? No, of course not. It's number 11 is Wolverine. Number 10 is Scott Summers. Sandwiched right in the middle is Jean Grey. Now, if you've been an X-Men reader, you know that Scott and Jean have the love interest. They're the couple. But Jean has this bad boy crush on Wolverine, and vice versa. Wolverine is kind of got this flame for Jean. Now, it's purely lustful on that part. Like, they both, are wildly attracted to each other, but it's not this sort of like, oh, I want to settle down and marry you. It's just that lustful chemistry. Scott and Jean have the true romance. But, as you can imagine, it's built some tension between Scott and Wolverine, who already had tension to begin with because Scott's very by the book. He's very anal retentive. Wolverine is like, shut the hell up. I'm just going to do it my way. And doesn't take orders. And they butt heads. That's always been the relationship. Add on top of that Wolverine has had some kisses with his girl. And the sparks fly. They do not get along. But here in 2019 X-Men Weird World, they apparently have a swinging relationship. I don't know what's going on here. Moving on. Back at the weird plant house on the moon, father and son do dishes together. It gets even weirder as Scott explains how they don't even do dishes normally. They use some weird bacterial cocoon goo, they call it. It eats all the bacteria, to which the father's disgusted. And, Scott tries to tell him why it's not disgusting. And he's like, boy, your world has changed. Yes, it has. And for the better. And it doesn't feel right here. I know that they're trying to have this father-son moment, but Scott doesn't feel like a person. He doesn't feel like the Scott Summers I know. None of these X-Men do, except for Wolverine. They literally feel like pod people. And I'm struggling with this because, like I said, I believe Hickman writes for a reason. Now, is the reason because this is his ideology expressed through his writing, like so many other writers that I have experienced with Marvel? Or is it because there's a purpose behind this? Like I was saying in House of X and Powers of X. Now, I was fine in that book because that book wasn't called X-Men. And I was theorizing that was for a reason, that we were going to see something change. The X-Men were actually not really the X-Men. They were pod people, or they were under the influence of, maybe this corrupted Professor X who was using mind control on them. They were all acting weird. Something was amiss, and we were going to find out why. But now we actually are in the X-Men. That story's over, and they're acting even weirder than usual. And part of it is just in just being normal. It's like it's normal to the extent of weird. Like if you go back today and watch Leave It to Beaver, in that time it kind of fit. But if you were to see that today, you'd be like, oh, no families like that today. That's so overly wholesome. It's not right. That's kind of how this is. Like it's forced harmony. Like everything is fitting way too easily. There's no strife. Everyone just gets along perfectly, and it just doesn't feel right. That's just it's all too wrapped up neatly in a bun to the point that it's not believable anymore. Anyways, back on the Orcus Forge, we see Professor Gregor, I think's her name. She's working on some stuff, and she confronts their head boss. We had thought it was going to be her, but now we know it's this Devo guy, and she obviously has some contempt for him. She makes a statement. I had heard you had arrived. First out, last in. Always a soft bed for the man behind the curtain. So she has some daggers coming out of her mouth. You're angry with me? You think I shouldn't be? At you? At them? And he's like, look, you can be angry with me. Whatever gets the work done. Then they start talking about the funeral. He didn't see her at the funeral for her husband. And he's like, you should have been there. We were burying your husband. She says, there wasn't anything left of my husband. And but she's like, I got a secret. And then Devo says, what's that? I know how to bring him back. And that is where we leave off the book. Now, it was a long one to get through. Whew! My mouth is tired and it's dry. It was a double-sized book. It's like 48 pages, I think. Oh, yeah, 38. So almost double-sized book. And I try to get through it quickly. I appreciate you bearing with me. I think I've covered most of what I wanted to do. You got to see the book for yourself. You see what the art looks like. You see how the story went. Now, I think a lot of people are looking at this book with rose-colored glasses. I've seen a lot of reviews of this. I've been trying to formulate my own opinions. I'm not sure if whenever I think negatively about something, I like to see what other people think to maybe discover, hey, am I just missing something? Because that's always the case. Like if you read a book and you don't understand it, you're naturally not going to like it. And that's the same true with movies or TV, whatever. If you don't get it, it's going to affect your enjoyment. So when I read this and I was done, I was like, oh, that wasn't that good. I was like, did I miss something? Is there something profound going on? And everyone's praising it. Oh, this is great, da-da-da. And I've watched multiple reviews, different takes. I'm sorry, I don't get it. This is not trash book by any means. But compared to what Powers of X were, this is a big step down, both in art and in writing. There doesn't seem to be a plot anywhere. That's a problem. But I will be fair in admitting something, that in House of X and Powers of X, number one, both of those books had the same similar effect where I was just like, I'm not really sold on this. I did views on those books. I had a similar problem. So I'm speaking a little bit reserved because maybe in a couple of issues down the road, I'm going to be hooked on this and just be like, oh my gosh, this book is fantastic. Because it was the third book in that original series that caught me as well. That I was like, oh, okay, now I get it. Now I'm on board. And the ball started rolling and it just got better and better. I'm hoping that's where this goes. I know Hickman can do it because I just witnessed him doing it. Now, if you did not read House of X and Powers of X, this is not a good jumping on point. I do not think this was a good number one issue. I think if you were not really an X-Men reader, you hadn't been following, and you just jumped on this would probably come off kind of boring and confusing to you. I don't think you would have the same problems with the X-Men being weird like I do, because they would just be fresh characters to you. And so this would be how you took them. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. But as you can see, like, nothing really happened. There was a couple moments that were interesting that I think are going to be set up for down the road. But as a first issue, you want to, like, come out strong. You want to, especially since you just had 12 issues of setup. Essentially, this is issue 13. And this doesn't feel like much, especially for a double-sized issue. Like, you had so many pages to work with. So I'm going to give Hickman a chance. I'm not going to trash this book, but I'm not going to praise it either. There's a lot wrong with it, and this book needs to prove itself. I'm not going to sit there and be like, it's so amazing because I love the previous work. I did love the previous work. It's one of the best X-Men stories I've ever read. It's that good. Hickman has shown me what he can do. But that doesn't mean now I'm just going to blindly praise anything that comes as the Hickman name on it. This is a start. I hope it's just a stutter start and it gets going. But it has to earn its, improve itself. So those are my thoughts on the book. Hopefully it wasn't too painful to get through. Hopefully I didn't come across and offend anyone. Hopefully the political takes that I've had didn't bother. I know some people get real sensitive about that stuff. And, look, I don't mean any negative feelings towards anyone. I don't mean to disparage anyone. But at the same time, it's like, I don't feel too apologetic either, because having some opinions about ideology shouldn't bother people. We should be able to discuss these things and embrace diversity of thought. Anyways, enough with that negative. Let's all enjoy comics. I'm going to try to enjoy this X-Men run. I'm really hopeful. I don't want to be a downer, but I do want to be fair, and I do just want to communicate what I think. I think that's why you tune in. I don't think you want to just tune in and hear me just, shill the book and be like, yeah, everything's roses, I love it, it's the best, X-Men's the best. You want to talk comics. Hopefully, if you're real about comics like I am, hopefully this gives you some value. Hopefully it got you through a long drive or a long day at work. And hopefully you'll continue to tune in. Thanks for watching. Feedback's always appreciated. And I hope to see you next time. Take care.